Oh no, I'm in a tesseract. I'm in a tesseract. I can't get out of this tesseract. Okay, I'm not in a tesseract. I'm actually in a recording booth. And if you do know me, then you know that my name is Andrew, or as the streets call me, Next Stop Andrew. And I am the creator of 4VKM, the show that I've been putting out now for coming up on 4 years. And, you know, we all bring something different to the table when it comes to this crazy, kooky, great awakening experience that the whole world is going through right now. But I felt like it was a new chapter, a new time. We're in a new year and a time to tell a new story, a new side of the 4VKM saga, as I like to call it. So to really start off, you know, we all have our own superpowers, if you will. And where I've been fortunate is that my superpower was watching professional wrestling. It was something that I started watching in 1998 when I was 11 years old. Helped me get through some tough times as a kid. And it was one evening, I'll never forget, or one Saturday morning on October 3rd, I think, 1998, that I was watching WWF Superstars. I was flipping through the channels, and for the first time I saw, you know, this WWF on the television screen. And the scene that I saw absolutely just captivated me to the point where I was hooked. And the scene was the iconic Zamboni scene. If you ever remember Stone Cold Steve Austin driving through with a Zamboni at the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit and driving that Zamboni down to a ring. You have this old man who I didn't know who was at the time, named Vince McMahon. He's in the ring saying, "Don't let him in here! Don't let him in here!" And Stone Cold continues to crash the Zamboni right into the ring, flip the bird to about a dozen different police officers, jump over them, lands on this old geezer, Vince McMahon, and just starts walloping the guy, and the place went absolutely bonkers. And I said, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And from that moment on, I was hooked as a WWF fan. And when it comes down to it, when you think really about how the mind works, think about if you've ever read Napoleon Hill, you know, he talks a lot about the subconscious mind. And it's really a hard drive. Your brain is a hard drive, right? So whatever we consume the most goes in there, gets put into storage. And sometimes it's readily accessible, sometimes not so much. But for me, I have the benefit of, at this point now, 1998, almost 25 years, coming in, 25 years of watching professional wrestling pretty consistently, Monday nights, Thursday nights, or Friday nights, whatever night SmackDown was on. Pretty consistent for about 25 years, adding into the little noggin here about a good, 5-6 hours of pro wrestling content every week for 25 years. So you see a lot of stuff. You forget a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff goes in. A lot of it's, useless. But as I went on in life, I realized maybe a lot of it's relevant, very relevant. And it became more obvious to me on June 16th, day before my birthday, 2015, when Donald Trump came down the escalator and he gave his announcement speech for President of the United States for the 2016 election. And what stuck out to me is, as I'm watching that video, that speech, I'm in awe. Not because what he's saying is nuts, right? Like, you've never seen a politician talk like this before. But because I had heard it before. I heard it all in wrestling. And all you had to do was go back to 2013, 2 years earlier. Madison Square Garden. Famous scene, Madison Square Garden. What happened in Madison Square Garden? Happy birthday, Mr. President. That's where Marilyn Monroe sang happy birthday to JFK. So MSG, a huge historic part of WWE's history forever. And here I was at MSG about to watch Donald Trump get inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame by his good friend, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. So Trump goes into the Hall of Fame, WrestleMania 29. Vince inducts him in there. Nice, huge speech. One of the best classes of all time for Hall of Fames. And then the next night they go to WrestleMania. And the main event, one of the main events at that WrestleMania, was Mexican-born Alberto Del Rio, who was the current world heavyweight champion at the time. And he was going to defend his championship against the real American Jack Swagger. And if you were following Jack Swagger at the time, he would cut these promos standing in front of a "Don't Tread on Me" flag with a gentleman called Zeb Coulter. And Zeb Coulter was basically saying everything Trump was saying about the border, everything he was saying about really everything. You could go look. There's a YouTube channel still up, Zeb Coulter, WWE. You'll find it. And go look at all the messages that were in there. It's predictive programming, if you want to call it there. Or as I like to call it, it was a beta test. It was a beta test. They were floating these ideas out there. And you know what ended up happening, actually? They were saying all this stuff, but the people were getting behind it. And every week, the "We the People" chants would get louder and louder in every arena that they were going to. So we see that. We see then 2 years later, Donald Trump comes out, runs for president, and he's basically saying all the same stuff that Zeb Coulter was saying. So at that point, that subconscious mind that I was telling you about started to go into overdrive. I started now thinking, well, Trump, WWE, is there something there? And then I noticed that Trump, he would always use the number 45. He had it on his hat, 45. He always had it very proudly, 45. He had it on Twitter. He followed 45 individuals on Twitter. In addition to that, one of those 45 was Vincent Kennedy McMahon that he would follow. So I'm like, Trump 45, what's that about? What is this all about? And then I remembered that he was the host of WrestleMania 4 and 5. Coincidence, right? He was the only man to host back-to-back WrestleManias, and those back-to-back WrestleManias were 4 and 5. When he would go back to Madison Square Garden, well, years before that, but WrestleMania 20, 2004, he'd be interviewed by Jesse Ventura. And Jesse Ventura introduced him as the host of WrestleMania 4 and 5. Host of WrestleMania 4 and 5, POTUS 45. I mean, it's in your face. So, I started thinking, like, man, I got to get the story out, because it started becoming something that was really pressure. It started becoming a pressure on my shoulders where I'm like, man, I see something that nobody else I see talking about right now. So I had that responsibility then to start investigating and learn how to make videos, which I wasn't a video maker beforehand, and really start telling this story that I didn't even see the full scope of it until I start doing it. And 41 episodes later, we have a more complete picture of kind of everything that's going on with the WWE and Donald Trump. So the last thing I'll say is that the date of the first 4VKM video was very significant. At the time, I didn't really realize how significant, but as time went on, I realized it. And 40 nights from tonight will be 2/21/2024. That is going to be the 4-year anniversary of the first 4VKM episode. Now, Why that date? What was the deal with that date? Well, when we started in 2020, 2/21/2020 was the 40th anniversary of when Vincent Kennedy McMahon and Linda McMahon founded their version of WWE, Titan Sports. And they incorporated that business in a town called South Yarmouth, Massachusetts, which is right down on the Cape. And it's right next door to Hyannis. And it's about an 18-minute drive from the Kennedy compound. Sure, it's nothing. So, 40 years, Vincent Kennedy's 40-year plan, that's the title of the first video. And the whole series kicked off on the 40th anniversary of Vincent Kennedy's plan. So, what's the plan? I think you'll see it in the videos, right? He created a machine. He created a powerhouse. He created something that, as JFK said, it was political, financial, and economic power that he created. And going back to that date of 2/21, what was the significance of that date? Why did he choose that date? Now, we could argue it's a coincidence. Just he woke up that day, wanted to do it. Maybe that's the truth. Maybe that's the case. However, if you go back 109 years later before that date, on 2/21/1871, that's a little something called the day the Corporation of the United States was established, and effectively the swamp was created. Washington, D.C., 1871, 2/21, look it up. So the swamp gets created on 2/21. 109 years later, after the corporation is found, Vincent Kennedy McMahon would start his corporation. Interesting. In 1998, I told you that's when I started watching wrestling. Well, the hottest thing going in 1998 towards the end of the year was Vincent Kennedy McMahon starting his own faction called the Corporation. Interesting. Not to mention the fact that the company before WWE was actually called the Capital Wrestling Corporation. So you have the Capitol, the Swamp, DC. It was formed on 2/21. Vince started his corporation on 2/21. The only thing that's left is that 109. Is there any significance with the 109? There is. And some of you know what that significance is. Has to do with that guy right there. But we'll get to that in a later episode. So tonight, what I'm here to do is usher in and begin 40 days and 40 nights of 4VKM to kind of refresh everybody and give a little bit of my perspective on each one of the videos that I created, and kind of get it out there again for folks to take a look at, share, and discuss, debate. And at the end of the 40 days, on 2/21/2024, we will be officially launching the 4VKM podcast. So this is something I've been wanting to do for a while now. Again, we'll be able to do some long format conversations. We're going to have some guests on that I think people are going to be pretty excited about. We're going to do some interviews. We're just going to spiel. We might do some AMAs, some Q&As, whatever you want to call it. We're going to talk about wrestling. We're going to talk about current events. We're going to talk about politics. We're going to talk about the election 2024. And, there's a lot of crazy shit going on right now. So we're going to talk about it all. So without further ado, thank you for tuning in to this first little short video here. And we look forward to going through and kind of re-showing you 41 episodes of 4VKM and get people talking a little bit about it. And hopefully we lead to a really good podcast that I think you guys will all really enjoy. So to check out episode 1, Vincent Kennedy's 40-year plan. Check out the link in the description. It's on Rumble. Rumble's the safest place for it to stay. And the other thing I ask is subscribe to the new YouTube channel, 4VKM Podcast. That's where we are going to be doing the podcast from that channel. We'll also have it on Rumble. We'll also be on X. But we're going to have a new channel set up there. So I please ask for you to subscribe, share the video, share this message, and look forward to more in the future.